The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Bill Zadites, and I'm the publisher with Auto Remarketing. We're glad to have you along with us this afternoon for today's ARTS webinar. Today's Auto Remarketing Training Series webinar is presented by Manheim. You can reach them online at manheim.com. Also, Dominion Dealer Solutions. Their website is drivedominion.com. And Carfax Service Network. You can reach them online at carfaxonline.com. Now, before we get started this afternoon, I want to take just a moment to go over a few housekeeping items for today's webinar. Please make sure that you've dialed in using the phone number provided in your communication email, or that you're able to listen via your PC's speakers. We are recording today's ARTS webinar, and we're going to make this recording and the presentations available to you in the very near future, so you'll have access to those. You'll be in listen-only mode for the webinar, so we will reserve some time after each of the presentations for some Q&A, and we encourage you to write your questions in. You can submit those questions at any time, and you would simply go to the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And if we aren't able to get to your question today, don't worry about that. We're going to forward each one of the questions directly to our presenters so they can respond directly back to you with answers to your questions. And lastly, excuse me, if you have any difficulty during today's webinar, please click on the hand icon. The hand icon on the GoToWebinar control panel, and that in essence raises your hand as if you have a question or a concern. That will alert a member on our webinar production team on this side, and we'll do the very best we can to help with whatever problem, concern, or question you might have in that regard. And also, please stay tuned following the final session. We have some additional information regarding some upcoming events that you're going to want to keep on your calendar as you do your 2014 planning, and we'll have more information on that. So let's bring in our speakers here. We're going to start this afternoon with Chris Hill from Manheim. Chris is the manager of customer education for Manheim's The Wholesale Institute, and he's going to kick off our webinar this afternoon. Chris, good afternoon and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to Auto Remarketing for having us this afternoon. So I want to try to pack in a little bit of information, or a pretty good amount of information, into a very, I guess, small amount of time. So forgive me while we go ahead and get started. So here's a couple concepts we're going to try to cover here in a couple of minutes. But we'll try to move through these in a very slow manner to make sure that everyone's sort of understanding as we go. So I, in no way, shape, or form, try to pretend that I am a statistician by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm a big fan of Tom Webb, Manheim's chief economist, and I try to tune in wherever I can and hear what what he's prognosticating, and see some of the details that he has coming out about trends that he sees in the automotive marketplace. So again, I don't study macro automotive economics, but I am a fan of some of the things that come out. So. First and foremost is some of the volume levels that we sort of see returning, specifically in the new car segment through this year, and a lot of this data will sort of come to fruition for the end of 2013 here soon. But things seem to be on the steady up and up, and with the increase in new car sales always means a steady increase of used car trade-in. So that's always good, as we've been in sort of this depressed used car situation for quite a while now with the scarcity of used car vehicles. So on that same note, we see the same trends sort of improving in the used car segment as well through this year, and some prognostication for what's to come here in the future. So a lot of what I'm really getting at here is it looks to be that there's going to be steady increase in business through both new and used, which again will mean a significant increase in those used car trade-ins. Now, the type of used car trade-ins will be interesting as we start to see the leases steadily grow and more interest in swapping out for new vehicles. But I'm very interested also in the average age of the used car that is out there. Now, if you're like me, I sort of said as things got tough here in 2007, 2008, I said, you know what, I'm just going to stay in my car and drive it till the wheels fall off. And what looks like a lot of people are sort of following that same trend as the age of the used car vehicle that's out there on the road has gone from almost 9.5 years to 11.5 years in a very short amount of time. Now, my 2003 250,000-mile unit will probably get me to the end and may not even blow up before then. So I'm going to trade that in, and it's going to be probably some poor dealership's responsibility then to find a good home for it. So all this really leads to, there's a lot of volume that may be potentially coming our way at the dealership. So, in the past, as we've thought about scarcity, it really wasn't a problem. I heard a dealer even say once, I'm not even going to wholesale out of a cement mixer. I'll retail everything. So times are changing a little bit, and that's what a lot of this that I gathered here is supposed to show. So another thing you'll have to think about as these, as your dealership starts to have more volume that maybe doesn't make sense for your mix, is another competing factor is the big term that everyone's, I'm sure, heard of this year is multi-platform remarketing. So that's the idea that an entity, say like a U.S. bank or some other entity of that nature, may have a large portfolio of inventory that they would like to remarket, and they'd like to have all buyer opportunities to purchase those cars from them. So to do that, they'd like to send all that inventory across all marketplaces. So they need an intermediary, like a hub, if you will, to sort of disperse that inventory across multiple marketplaces. Now, we're not quite there yet. This is sort of the end concept, mind you. What we really have right now truly is a multi-listing. We don't have multi-bidding yet. So multi-listing right now is these units are now for sale across multiple marketplaces. Multi-bidding really is the end game, and that's where if a bid is received in one marketplace, it'll then be reflected across all the others at the same time as they come in. So we're not quite there yet, but imagine when we are, not only will you have to think about all the increase of trade-ins that don't make sense to your dealership or maybe aged units, but now you have to think about what you're competing with as there are units that don't make sense at your dealership that you'll need to remarket. So I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, you know what, Chris, I don't have to worry about that because I got a guy at my dealership and he's been in the business 87 years. Or, Chris, that's really not a problem for my dealership because we use, this great software that we've invested in, and they really help us sort of, make those great decisions. So these are just two examples, mind you, of instances from this year where it would seem like that these would be good fits for dealerships and sell rapidly, but they weren't. So this is what I like to call years of experience example. So these are real examples. This is a vehicle that was bought on day one, and here's just a glimpse at the screen. So this is our screen here at Manheim. So it shows that there's a vehicle and there's where it's sold for with the fee on it. And then the vehicle showed up in an online retail marketplace, and the retail price $33,900. Now, I don't know if there was PAC on there or not, but maybe they're just trying to make a nice thick margin. But regardless, it showed up at $33,900. Now, day 21, the car hadn't really sold yet, but it actually showed up in OVE, so Manheim's 24/7 marketplace. Now, they weren't motivated to sell it at wholesale, but it's interesting because they still listed it anyway. And the things that show me that they really weren't as motivated, one, it's only 21 days old, and two, the price reflected their retail price, and their comments reflected the retail comments. So there wasn't really any motivation to move on that unit yet. And then across, as the vehicle matured, day 28, day 42, there were some significant price drops. And then at day 60, the vehicle showed up back at Manheim to be sold back in the lane. Now, maybe the unit was bought to be CPO'd and it didn't work out. I don't really know why it didn't work out. I just know that I was able to see that the vehicle did check back into our auction. So again, everything about this this Highlander said it would have been a quality unit to make sense at a dealership, but maybe there was something there that was unknown. So if there would have been a little bit more emphasis in that having that plan, that right plan for this unit, maybe the small loss they took wouldn't have to occur. Now, the other side of that coin is the great tools that are out there to help you make these marketplace decisions, and I call these sort of guidance tools. So there's great tools out there from DealerTrack and First Look and vAuto. So there's a lot of tools out there that sort of say, here's what the marketplace says the car has value at, because here's how fast it's sold. Here's how you should be pricing it. Here's how quickly you'll sell it if you do so. So all these great tools that are sort of indicators how to rapidly turn inventory. Now, this is an example where I could clearly tell that one of those types of tools was being used, and I'll show you. So here it was, a Malibu bought on day one after everything with Recon Transportation, $12,699. So it looks like they priced it out there to make a margin of a little over $2,000. And here's where it's pretty obvious that they were using some sort of marketplace guidance tool, is that there were incremental drops in the pricing as the vehicle matured. Now these guidance tools sort of say, hey, if you drop the price by this little bit amount or that little bit amount, as retail customers are searching for inventory, yours will come to the top because it'll be priced accordingly. So you can see they made several sort of nominal adjustments over the course of this ownership, and still the vehicle didn't sell at day 65. Here's the vehicle back on the site at day 71, and you can see from what they put in at the very beginning to where it ended up 12.9, there was a lot of opportunity that was lost. And finally, at day 80, I checked just on a hunch to see if the vehicle was ever listed anywhere on OVE. So they were using some sort of one of these types of tools, and these tools actually push this data out to wholesale marketplaces at the same time as it's being listed on retail. But it takes someone at the dealership actually coming in and enabling or turning on the vehicle, activating it in a wholesale market. So they really wouldn't have to do anything other than come in here and pop a price in because the listing was already available for them. But it's interesting to know that this vehicle showed up here months ago, and there was never any emphasis to come in here because there wasn't that plan about what happens as the vehicle matures. And this is just using vAuto as actually able to find all these nominal drops. So it's very, very interesting. So between the years of experience or the technology that you can use, it's important to sort of have that plan and sort of think like the buyer a little bit when it's time to put that plan together. So here are just a couple of really quick and easy examples of how, if thinking of 2014 and beyond, when there's potentially an abundance of inventory in certain segments, you'll want to make sure that yours is the most marketed in the wholesale marketplace. So put your buyer cap on for a second and ask a couple questions. So the first one is you'd never want to show a retail customer your competition. So a lot of images that I typically see across marketplaces have those logos for the dealership or are taken right in front of the dealership. Now in a wholesale marketplace, a buyer down the road can actually look at your listing and present it back to the retail customer. They wouldn't necessarily do that if your dealership's logo or the image of your dealership was somewhere involved in there. And that picture is great in the retail space, but in the wholesale market it really deters a potential buyer. So just food for thought. And that's one that I commonly sort of see people sort of shaking their heads saying, yeah, I probably should have thought about that. So it's a real quick and easy way to try to get some more potential buyers. Another one, and these are sort of categorized from pictures to price and some other things. So paying over average money, well, if a buyer is going to pay over average money, then he wants to know that it's benefiting him in some way, shape, or form. So I call this pictures because this really goes to the heart of some great information, like in this example here. This dealership put all this great information about some things that he did on the vehicle while he owned it, put some brake pads on, oil change, things of that nature. But I've seen examples out there of people that have taken pictures of invoices or shown the brand new tires where you can actually see the little knobs still on the side. These are just great indicators to buyers out there. Hey, if you took some chips out of a bumper, if you wet sanded a back deck lid, well, make sure there was a picture of that somewhere to show, hey, potential buyer, this is something I took care of for you that you won't have to fool with. And that's why I'm asking for over average marketplace pricing. So another thing, and this is just really a no-brainer, and this usually comes from that aggregator pushing this inventory out to the wholesale marketplace, is you'd never pay retail for a wholesale unit. So any wholesale buyer out there worth his salt is going to copy and paste the VIN on from OVE or one of the marketplaces and put it into Google and see where this car lives. So everyone out there is always checking to see what everyone's really asking for on the retail side. So it's important to note that everyone's doing that. So there should be some discrepancy. And if you're not really motivated to even sell it yet, like in that first example at day 21, you might want to hold off. So you always want to feel like you got a great deal. I mean, the marketplace, buyers, they just want to feel like they got a great deal. Now, I'm not talking about pricing the vehicle, hundreds or thousands below where you need to be. I'm talking about giving your buyer just some options. So a great option out there is the function to turn on Make an Offer on OVE. So you can say, hey, I know the marketplace says the vehicle's worth X. This is what I got to get for it, but I would be, I'd be okay with entertaining some offers. Now, you may get some offers that are, a little bit less or significantly less than what you're asking for because the feature allows you to make offers for 20% minus this price. But would you sell that car maybe for $100 less? You'd be surprised how many deals we see come through where the final negotiated offer was 100 or 200 back of whatever their starting price was, because essentially what they did was they just took care of a buy fee for a potential buyer. So it's a great option. So if you haven't seen that before or looked at it, you may want to think about enabling that, and you'll really strike up an electronic conversation with a buyer. So seller reputation is very, very important. Everyone knows it's been important for years in the lanes. You know, he's a stand-up guy, calls the cars right. You know, he's not there to showcase him. He sells everything he brings. But online, it's a little bit harder to qualify. So, you know, there's been a star rating, at least Manheim, for quite some time now. And again, as there's more and more inventory fluctuating in the marketplace, at some point, your 2008 Camry with 89,000 miles, there may be 5 or 6 others out that are all priced similarly and have similar condition information. So what's going to make you stand out above the others? And that's maintaining a good seller reputation. And that can be done just by managing the inventory you sell, making sure you take down units that are already sold and don't get in any problems. And finally, make sure that you're always interested in other inventory that the seller has out there. So if you had a good experience with a seller, you can go on to OVE.com and search that seller and see other inventory he's listing. So it's a great way to sort of always be checking. If you had a car, got delivered, it was exactly as called, you sold it real quick, you might want to find some more. And the final piece to that is having good condition information, objective condition information. Now that can be sort of difficult because a lot of people say, getting that vehicle to the auction to get it, CR'd is, it's time consuming, it's not cost effective for this one unit. So I'll give you 2 options here. And this is really the most important one out of the whole bag, is getting condition information on your car. So first and foremost is the free option. This is a good option if you like the free. So from Manheim's app, you can go on and you can actually start and create your own condition report that has an NAAA score associated with it. So you start off by scanning the VIN, manufacturer's VIN code there, making sure you select the seller disclosure there, and then answering all the questions that come up. Now, some VINs will populate more of this data than others, but you're going to have to spend some time doing this. The average time is about 30 minutes per CR. Now again, if you're weighing cost versus time, maybe that time is important because you're the only guy at the dealership. But if you have the time, going through these series of questions and associating the damage that you find and some pictures with this may be a great way to sell a unit, because specifically, buyers out there are always just looking for vehicles that just have condition information. And now with this app, you can do it from the luxury of your dealership. So here we go, we finished up, we'll take that final picture of that front end, and now we'll act as a buyer and we'll go online and search for that vehicle. So this is a very common, quick example of how buyers look for vehicles. So they type in the year, make, model, and they're going to want to search for probably the vehicles that are closest to them. So let's say, for example, I live in Orlando. So I'm going to come over here, check Orlando, and you know what? I'm only going to look for Mustangs that have condition reports. So here's one right here, and it just happens to be the one that we just did. So if I wouldn't have done that seller disclosure with the grade, this wouldn't have ever come up in my search results. So you're getting your vehicle in front of more eyes, and there's some things down there that show just those couple of scratches we found, little dent, some minor damage there in the back end. But again, that's all stuff that really creates a great transaction. Now, if time is of the essence, you don't want to spend 30 minutes per CR doing this, well, then the other option is to order condition reports and have them done at your dealership. So from Manheim.com, you can click on the Sell tab and have these condition reports ordered to you. All you have to tell us is how many vehicles need to be inspected and what day works for you. It'll cover up to 5 vehicles for $175, and if you have less than that, it's still $175, but if you have more, it's an additional $35. So pretty easy option there. It's just a little bit more of an investment. So finally, just as a quick recap, be aware of the market conditions. We've ebbed and flowed so many times over these past couple of years. It's important to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. And like I said in the beginning, I'm a huge fan of Tom Webb and the information he puts out. If you are too, or you'd like to be more in tune with that, go to manheim.com/consulting. And there you can follow all the information that our consulting team, led by our chief economist, Tom Webb, puts out. It's great to have these aggregator services, and if you are using one to push your retail data across multiple places, make sure they've enabled the feature to turn it on at your wholesale marketplace as well. OVE is connected to over a majority of the major aggregators out there, so if you weren't aware of it, let them know that you'd like to have that service enabled. So experience and smart software are key essentials to running an efficient dealership, but make sure that you have a plan for every unit out there. I like to call it a get-out-of-jail plan. You know, what's going to happen at day 60 or what's going to happen at day 75, or whatever your hard and fast rules are, you know, make sure that you have a plan for these units. And again, you saw two examples of some problems that happened with two cars, and that was this year when, you know, there's still some scarcity out there. So in the future, that may be more prevalent. Don't forget what it's like to be a buyer. You know, if most of you have probably, you know, done some buying before and know what it's like to sort of act in that manner. So good pictures, good price, seller reputation, and condition information. It'll put every seat in any seat. Now, it's not the way my dad used to say that term, but hopefully you get the picture. So forgive me for packing in a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but I really wanted to cover some key concepts because I think 2014 is going to be a very different year for us as some of these volumes start to come back. So now I'd like to see if we have any questions. So forgive me again for sort of going fast, but I want to make sure we cover a lot.
Chris, thank you very much. Great job. Chris Hill's the manager of customer education for Manheim's The Wholesale Institute, and we do have some questions online from dealers who are chiming in this afternoon. Chris, dealer says that you mentioned here the multi-platform remarketing, selling, listing. How can my dealership take advantage of something like that? I think there's probably a question that a lot of dealers have as the term kind of proliferates through the automotive industry, specifically on the wholesale side of the market. Can you give us some guidance and give this dealer some of your thoughts on that?
That's a great question because it seems to be that term, this platform, marketplace has really been like a lightning bolt this year. I've seen white papers and a lot of the different trade shows have sort of had different segments broken out on it. And right now we're just at the very, very beginning of this phase of what probably will be inevitably. There's been U.S. Bank was an example I gave earlier because they're one that sort of working with Manheim to sort of figure this out, and Manheim has been really good about championing this effort to work with the companies that have these hubs and the different marketplaces. So there's not a good solution out there right now. Some that I'm familiar with is AIM. So the inspection company AIM sort of acts as a hub. So the inspection's done with them. They can sort of push to multiple marketplaces. Liquid Motors is one I'm familiar with also that is working sort of as this hub. And again, where we're not at quite yet, it's going to take a lot more work to get there, is the multi-bidding. Right now we're just seeing multi-listing where the vehicle's listed in one place, and if it gets a bid, it shuts it down in the other places, which really doesn't let our sellers get the best value. It's helpful because it's getting more exposure, but there's still some value out there that may be left on the table by buyers that only prefer one marketplace over another. So forgive me, but there's not a true solution out there for what the end result is desired.
And Chris, one more question before we let you go this afternoon. The dealers looked at a number of different inventory management systems. They're thinking of trying one out. Maybe it's vAuto, maybe it's First Look. What in your mind is paramount for dealerships to evaluate as they take a look at one of these inventory management systems?
Well, I'm a little biased because I'm vAuto is part of the Cox family, so I from a non-biased perspective, I like their tool and software because it really spends a good amount of time focusing on marketplace, real live marketplace data. So I mean, as retail customers are out there, spending months searching for what that right unit is, it's collecting all this data and aggregating it and putting it back into a solution that's sort of indicating to the dealers on how to make the best moves. A lot of the solutions out there are now sort of getting into that space of collecting and aggregating some real-time marketplace data. Plus, the advantage of Provision and sort of being able to be guided towards the best cars that meet your mix that can turn in a rapid amount of time and freshen up your dealership. It's a really great solution. But I digress. First Look and DealerTrack all have great solutions. So it's really tough to say, but I would lean in the direction of those that offer no contracts, because the solution should stand up by itself, and if you don't like it and don't want to pay for it, you shouldn't be bound And I think some of the examples I showed you today are ones that sort of say, hey, we feel good about our products, and if you like them, try it out, and if you don't, then you can make a new decision.
His name is Chris Hill. He's the Manager of Customer Education for Mannheim's The Wholesale Institute. Chris, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Good job with your presentation, and we'll look forward to having you back on board with the ARTS webinar series sometime in 2014. Once again, Chris Hill with Mannheim.
Thank you
Our
very
next
much.
presentation as we move forward this afternoon is from Jen Ryan. And Jen is with Dominion Dealer Solutions, where she is the Director of Inventory Solutions there. And Jen, welcome back to the program. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon on the Auto Remarketing Training Series.
Great, thanks. Taking over the screen. Let's see if I can grab this real quick. Okay, we should be all set. Everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic of dynamic retail results through merchandising. Specifically, let's take a look at what is dynamic merchandising. Why is it important to differentiate your vehicles? How can dealers implement dynamic vehicle merchandising throughout all the various touch points that they're using in their dealership today through real-time, value-driven differentiators? And then finally, let's end the presentation with 5 quick tips for how you can get started today to implement this going forward. So what is dynamic vehicle merchandising? Well, if we took a look at Wikipedia, the definition that would come through from that resource would be a force that stimulates change and contributes to a sale of a mobile machine in a retail customer environment. I don't know about you, but taking a look at that, it didn't really jump out at me and kind of what I would have as an action going forward. So I think we have to go back to the board and come up with something that's maybe a little more tangible and actionable. So for this presentation, let's use the definition as dynamic vehicle merchandising is relevant vehicle content generated in real time to deliver a value-driven, consumer-targeted experience. In other words, for marketers out there, let's find a way to automatically deliver the right message at exactly the right time to the right car shopper that is relevant, purposeful, and specific. This means connecting all consumer touch points that they would experience through their shopping journey. A dealer's website, a third-party VDP, videos, photos, custom comments, and more. Now that we've defined, at least at a high level, what dynamic vehicle merchandising is, let's take a look at why it's important to today's retail dealer. Everyone from Google to Facebook is reminding us each and every day how quickly the consumer shopping experience has changed. In fact, this new multi-screen world is forcing all retailers, and more specifically dealers, to reevaluate and define a better and more informative shopping experience. Google released a study late last year that proved that 90% of all media interactions are screen-based, with 38% of those interactions starting on a mobile device. Furthermore, and what probably has caused the most panic and confusion among dealers is the fact that 90% of shoppers use multiple screens throughout their shopping, research, and decision-making process. They're constantly bouncing around from mobile to tablet to desktop and back and forth to get different pieces of information on the vehicles they're searching for. So what does this mean? Dealers need to make sure that they are delivering relevant, purposeful, and informative consumer experience at every touch point in the sales funnel. In fact, if a shopper lands on your web page, whether it's a mobile or desktop device, and jumps quickly to another site, Google, as the leader in the search space, starts to deem your content as non-relevant. The goal for dealers should be to deliver the best content to keep shoppers on a site as long as possible. Keep them engaged, which will translate into increased interest, increased leads, and increased sales. It's now more important than ever that you completely know and understand each individual shopper by type, by technology, by interaction, and by communication type. So as the consumer experiences change, what specifically are shoppers expecting? Recently, Cobalt released a study. Yeah.
Jen, if I could, I just want to double check one thing. We're seeing a dual screen from you. Is that
oh, you
intention?
are. No, it's not.
Okay, let's just before we go any further, I just wanted to double check that that was what you
no
wanted
problem.
us to take from this. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I didn't want to go any further unless that was your intention from your side.
No, perfect. Any better for you.
That does look full screen. It actually is expanding beyond the screen.
Oh. Well, my apologies, technical difficulties here.
That's okay. I didn't want you to go any further down the road with this unless we had checked this first. So,
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, there we go. That's.
Would that help you? Is that better?
Yeah, that does. I think everyone can probably see that from there. Thank you.
We'll continue like that. Let me know if there's any more difficulties.
You bet. Thank you.
As I was saying, Cobalt recently released a study that stated that while shoppers appear to be somewhat satisfied with their online and on-lot shopping experience, they simply want more. Specifically, 75% of shoppers want a more simplified vehicle information online. 88% of shoppers want easier, clearer, and specifically, digestible information on pricing. And 73% of shoppers want a simpler vehicle comparison process. For years, experts like Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book, and even Dominion have been educating dealers on how critical it is in their merchandising process to place focus on photos, price, and comments. And while that's continued to be true, the result is that simply consumers want more. Easy, simple, and clear is what they really expect. Dealers need to work to get into the hands of the consumers as much VIN-specific information as possible. Generic information just isn't going to work anymore. They want clear, concise information that will really give the consumer that feeling that they understand exactly what that specific vehicle has to offer. So we talked a little bit about, the consumer expectations have changed, and so has their shopping experience. In fact, J.D. Power told us that 95% of online shoppers will purchase a vehicle from a dealership where they've actually gone to the website and viewed that specific inventory. Well, that's not surprising, and that's how many of us shop for a number of things that we buy today. The shocking part is only 5% of those active shoppers actually submit a lead. So they're looking at the inventory, and they may show up on your lot, but they're not actually doing any action to show that they're very interested. In addition, we know that the more times a VIN is viewed, the more likely that piece of inventory can turn in 30 to 45 days. In fact, the average vehicle has a VIN viewed 23 times. So how do we make sure shoppers are coming back? How do we make sure that our ads and every piece of marketing that we generate has the right information to put in front of shoppers? Online, in the showroom, and when they come in to have that conversation with sales in a simple, clear, and concise, simple way. Let's look at how dynamic vehicle merchandising can be applied at your dealership to take us through the process. A few weeks ago, I actually attended the Used Car Week out in San Diego, and many of the speakers focused on this topic specifically. There's such a great importance right now on the VIN-specific merchandising quality that dealers can provide, and the importance that dealers need to transcend from the appearance of a many-to-many relationship to really a one-to-one consumer shopping experience. Dealers need to make sure that each vehicle listing is extremely easy for their prospects to date. By providing shoppers with the right level of VIN-specific information, shoppers will be able to quickly and easily make decisions such as, is this vehicle right for me? Does it have the important elements that are on my checklist? What if a shopper is really interested in an SUV with leather seats, sunroof, and a cold weather package? Would your vehicle listings be able to give them that level of specificity across every single make, model, used, and new vehicle on your lot that the consumer would easily identify in their shopping experience whether that vehicle is right for them? Dealers need to hone in on the most important message elements for each vehicle. By focusing on price, value, and type of customer, dealer retailers will be able to instantly see positive results. So how can dealers ensure that their vehicle listings include value-driven content? Value-driven content can be gleaned by analyzing each VIN and comparing that VIN to what is available in the marketplace today. The comparison obviously will factor into a dealer's pricing and stocking strategy, like we heard in the first presentation, but I would also recommend that it should greatly influence a dealer's merchandising strategy for each specific vehicle. For example, dealers should quickly be able to identify and market the following triggers for each vehicle. Demand triggers such as highly popular, extremely scarce, or even low supply in the marketplace. Unique configurations for each make and model. Specific features and condition combinations that may drive price up or down and pique specific interests of prospects. And then also, vehicles that have an ideal price to mileage ratio that actually might be a trigger in that marketplace. These triggers, or as we refer to them as unique vehicle differentiators, will come in helpful as you create your vehicle-specific comments and advertisements. As well as they can be handed off to your sales teams to better arm them with better information, better product understanding, and a better analysis, which ultimately delivers a win-win for the consumer shopping experience. And best of all, these triggers change and can be instantly updated to help your vehicle merchandising elements. That is dynamic vehicle merchandising. Let's take a look at how we might be able to put this into action for your dealership today. So just to start off, some quick categories that usually go along with dynamic vehicle merchandising today include dealership, the unique category, the confidence categories, and reviews. For the dealership perspective, you not only want to highlight specific contact information, but also market when your vehicle has the best price option for the local market, and also shows competitiveness to any of the book values that are out there today. From the unique category, highlighting vehicle data, unique features that enhance the vehicle, the value of that vehicle, like navigation, tinted windows, heated seats, bedliners, anything like that would be of interest to highlight, as well as any fuel economy facts for that type of make and model. In addition, as we spoke before, that value-driven unique vehicle differentiators really should be highlighted and constantly changing and evolving throughout the merchandising piece. From the confidence category, this is where you set yourself apart by providing vehicle history information, some of the information that will later come up in the Carfax information, one-owner vehicles, eligibility for buyback, things like that that really draws that confidence for that consumer. From the reviews category, this provides the online shopper with more validation around awards, accolades, automotive reviews, crash test ratings. CPO programs specifically have become a huge area of focus here that will actually help to drive interest for the consumers online. Now imagine that that information was married up automatically or intelligently in a narrative format to tell a real story about each individual vehicle, a compelling, robust, and informative story that will learn and strengthen as it grows and help to adapt to the demands and the changing environments. Ability to add new data sources as they become available and optimize the solution, it hones in to really target for each individual shopper. What I essentially describe for you is a marrying of the dynamic vehicle approach with the storytelling approach, how we transform the data into something that's relevant and yet digestible, not just full of generic VIN explosion. My recommendation on storytelling really evolves from the need for people to really have relevant content in their hands that makes them really connect and transform the descriptions into something that they can really articulate themselves. In addition, we know that they can be generated and distributed throughout any merchandising touch point, in your vehicle comments, across your marketing touch points, dealer websites, third-party VDPs, anything like that. Let's take a look at a quick example and see how this could be applied to your vehicles. The one that we're showing here on the screen is for a 2013 Cadillac CTS. As you can see, the story it engages the reader right from the start. In addition, it's packed full of quality, action-oriented data that's of real interest and tested with shoppers today. Vehicle report information, safety and crash test ratings, unique high-value features, automotive reviews are just some of the things that give that confidence to that consumer that this vehicle might really just be for them. Using this type of approach, we've seen dealers increase SRP to VDP conversions by more than 50% on average. Consumers are engaging longer on vehicle detail pages that give them results like this, that drive to the detail and point out and connect with what their photographs and vehicle videos are doing today. Automating your dynamic vehicle merchandising process with storytelling is a winning combination for both your dealership and your online shopper. For the dealership, delivering effective stories will save you time, money, and resources. And furthermore, it will help remove that manual and often painful process of relying on your dealership personnel to deliver and articulate all the different descriptions about each individual vehicle product. For the consumer, it will generate engaging, compelling, and relevant stories that will oftentimes inform and educate the shopper. Not only will the shopper know that you are the expert, but you'll be able to provide them much more information and help them really have a very winning decision-making journey. This educational, informative, and sometimes entertaining descriptions will drive action and set you apart from the competition, and as a result, will help to improve your inventory turn. The last point I want to make is that connecting the storytelling approach obviously has huge benefits for the consumer, but actually will drive benefits within your dealership and your sales team. Dynamic vehicle merchandising enables the salesperson to help hone in on the unique attributes for each vehicle and connect them directly to what the shopper saw in photographs and read online. As well as it offers them helpful suggestions about which cars to show prospects next based on profile demographics or unique feature sets that they're very interested in. By preparing sales to stay focused on these items, the shopper will engage longer. Sales will be able to quickly identify and easily talk through the trigger message points that a shopper will naturally draw connections with. And this will help in that transition between online merchandising, lot merchandising, and that actual customer conversation. So just to wrap up, we'll leave you with 5 quick tips because we have been throwing a ton of information at you today on how you can vehicle merchandise for success in your dealership. First, make sure you start off with a strategy and prioritize. Focus on a few campaigns or a few consumer touch points to really bring this strategy together, and then how you actually roll it out throughout your dealership. Don't boil the ocean, and this means don't solve everything at once. Focus on those few key metrics that you really want to drive results on, and then figure out how to tie that back to your strategy and your priorities. Incorporate the right technology partners out there today. There's a wide plethora of technology partners out there today that can help to streamline and automate as much or as little of this as possible for you. Big data concepts are always being thrown around, and we're going to continue to hear those new data sets get tossed into how you're merchandising and pricing your vehicles going forward. So make sure you really do your due diligence out there and select one that's really right for your dealership. Introduce the right data elements that will really help drive the best success for your dealership. Unique vehicle differentiators, persona demographics, preferences, buying, shopping behaviors are some of the areas I recommend that dealers start with and try to understand so they can articulate a better picture. But really finding that right way to kind of bring those areas together is what will make you successful. And then finally, analyze, iterate, and optimize. Don't just set on whatever you established yesterday as your way to go forward over the next couple months. Make sure you're constantly taking a look at the marketplace, what consumers are doing, what your competition is doing, and then make sure to course correct as you go forward so that you can really stay ahead of the competition. And we will enter and see if there's any questions out there, and hopefully we left enough time for Jay to do his presentation.
Absolutely, Jen. Thank you very much. We do have some questions coming in from dealers on our webinar this afternoon. This gentleman writes in, he says, who should be doing all of the comments and custom information for each vehicle? This is his second dealership that he's worked for, and he handles the leads, sells, designs websites, all the inventory, and manages the digital advertising as well. There just seems to be more and more that keeps being put onto his plate. In your experience, Jen, with some of the stores and some of the best practices dealerships that you're working with, how are some of these departments being set up to handle all of this work that that apparently is becoming very important to selling vehicles?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, just to kind of do a sidebar, yesterday Joe Webb came out with a new video that kind of talks about the revolutionary Internet Manager and where they're going today and how that's changed over the last 2 years. But you're right, we keep piling all these different things on top of everyone and expecting the same person or maybe a couple people within the dealership to manage not only the website but all the details around your vehicle. And what I'm really formulating here is product marketing within the dealership is extremely important. And we have to figure out how to bring out those pieces simple and easiest for everyone in the dealership to use, whether you're generating marketing campaigns or you're on the sales aspect or you're working to make sure that the right things are getting merchandised and all the other touch areas, radio or newspaper or traditional media. A dealership, if they're connected and they're working across all the various departments, that's really the best that everybody is doing it. I think that there's definitely companies out there today that can help gather the specific information that you would need and kind of bubble that up to you. There's obviously companies, ourselves or any of the other inventory providers out there today, may have ways to streamline and automate that some. But really the connection is just to make sure that it's getting into the hands of the people that do the marketing campaigns or updating your web copy. That are sending it out to all your third portals, simplify and make sure everything's staying connected as a hub and that it's not disparate. What we see so many times is that many of the departments within dealerships just don't work well to one another. They don't not mean to, but they're just not communicating those things that are really important, and that could make you really work as a well-oiled machine a little bit better.
Jen, you mentioned streamlining. You said simplify. How does the product automatically learn and deliver this new content for each vehicle? I would imagine that'd be a big part of the process.
Yeah, it is. And what's really nice is we've baked in that intelligence in the engine. That'll let the engine constantly evolve not only how they're saying descriptions or how they're clarifying what's important on each vehicle or who they're targeting, but it's also bringing in tons of great data. We're adding new data sources all the time so that they can really articulate in the ways that consumers are really searching for online, in the ways that are really catching the clicks out there. So if something's not working or if we need to evolve it a little bit, we're constantly molding the engine in a very flexible fashion that's going to really set the dealer up for success in the future.
Jen Ryan, Director of Inventory Solutions with Dominion Dealer Solutions. Jen, thank you very much. We appreciate your time this afternoon, and we'll look forward to another opportunity to have you on board with us in the Auto Remarketing Training Series as we move into 2014. Jen Ryan, once again, thank you very much on behalf of Dominion Dealer Solutions. And as we continue with the Auto Remarketing Training Series this afternoon, we're glad to have back with us Jay Luna from Carfax. Jay is the Industry Relations Manager, and as I've mentioned, has been with us quite a few times and always does an excellent job representing Carfax and sharing some of his expertise and knowledge on behalf of the company. Jay, good afternoon and welcome aboard.
Good afternoon, Bill, and thank you all for joining today's webinar series hosted by Auto Remarketing. I'd like to say to Chris and Jen, great job. As we approach the new year, I'm pleased to have this opportunity to share with you some tips you can include in your 2014 game plan that will dramatically boost service revenue. For years now, Carfax has been the leader in helping dealers during the acquisition, advertising, and buying phase of a vehicle purchase. I just want to clear my screen here or something, okay? So now with new product offerings available to dealers who participate in the Carfax Service Network loyalty program, we're also helping dealers in the integral part of the ownership phase by providing innovative ways that will not only enable you to engage and retain your current service customers, but will also help you acquire new customers. Before we get started, I'd like to share, I'm sorry, I had a little technical difficulty here. Before we get started, I'd like to share some loyalty metrics which show the highest return to incidence return to market incidence is highest in year 3, when 12.4% of consumers return to market for another vehicle. By year 6, cumulatively, more than half of all owners will purchase again, with almost 3/4 buying their next vehicle within 10 years. Looking at the retention rate over time, vehicles purchased new, and as might be expected in year 1, the vast majority of owners still own their vehicles. By year 10, that number drops to 25.9%. However, as time goes by and owners become less engaged with the brand and the retail network, they become more likely to defect when returning to the market for their next vehicle purchase. The goal is to stay engaged with your customers during the ownership cycle of their vehicle to retain and promote regular maintenance, which ultimately generates an average of $550 of service gross profit over a 5-year period for each vehicle sold. Ultimately, service loyalty drives future sales and service revenues. The more frequent a customer services with the dealer, the more likely they will buy their next vehicle from the dealer. After the first service visit, consumers are 33% more likely buying a vehicle at the servicing dealer. And after 5 visits, the odds for a purchase double. Based on the metrics I've just shared and the fact that dealers are faced increased competition from independent service stations and quick lube centers, you have to ask yourself, how is your dealership growing its service business? What common tools are you using to stay connected with your customers during the ownership cycle of their vehicle and gives them access to the information they seek? For years now, we've known that consumers turn to the internet before purchasing a vehicle. They visit third-party websites such as AutoTrader and Cars.com, Carfax, Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book, NADA, and dealer websites before they arrive at the dealership to make a purchasing decision. Their goal is to buy something that's reliable, not someone else's problems. They want reasons to trust the vehicle's legitimate. And consumer studies show the number 2 thing consumers want to know before buying a pre-owned vehicle is service and maintenance history. That's why today over 68% of all franchise dealers report their service records to Carfax as participating members of the Service Network Loyalty Program, which lists their services performed in common terms on the Carfax Vehicle History Report and shows a vehicle has been well maintained. This lets the dealer build loyalty by helping their customers maintain the resale value of their vehicles, and it gives the dealership increased online exposure and drives traffic to their website, allowing them to promote their online inventory or service specials. It also helps with vehicle retention after the change of ownership, especially for vehicles previously purchased and serviced at your dealership yet traded in elsewhere, because the new owner will see your dealership knows that car best and will probably return to the servicing dealer. In addition, multiple visits to your shop lets vehicle owners prove regular maintenance and their well-maintained status. However, the way consumers access the information they seek is different than it was a few years ago, and that's because the mobile revolution is taking over, which is changing the car buying experience for dealers and consumers. With growing interest in car research apps, mobile devices are expected to become a go-to resource for 87% of all car consumers, according to a 2012 study from Briavi, a mobile advertising company that surveyed more than 1,600 people planning to purchase a car within 12 months. While the car buying experience is improving, consumer concerns during the ownership cycle continue to plague customers. They ask themselves every day the following questions, and it's up to their servicing dealer to stay connected with them through the ownership cycle of their vehicle and to help them keep their well-maintained status. A mobile smartphone app designed to promote your business to an entire network of existing and potential customers is today's reality. Research shows that by 2015, 81% of all U.S. cell phone users will have a smartphone, and this is a great time to truly consider how your dealership can be in the pocket, and I repeat, how your dealership can be in the pocket of each customer you sell and service. 43% of drivers perform a search online or on a smartphone when considering where to service their vehicle, and 62% of consumers will research a service technician's recommendations. So what is Carfax doing to help address consumer concerns? Well, you've probably heard the expression, there's an app for that. The My Carfax app can be downloaded for free, and it's available on the Apple Store and Google Play. This is the piece that ties it all together between the dealership and the customer, and will allow dealer customers to set up a free account to enter their own personal vehicles. My Carfax is designed to put the dealer in the customer's pocket. And again, I repeat that, the dealer in the customer's pocket, and solve their headaches by giving them access to a virtual glove box of service history which has been reported to Carfax. It helps them track their service records and see OEM service schedules to help reinforce regular maintenance. In addition, your customers will also receive helpful maintenance reminders and alerts notifying them of open safety recalls and overdue services, promoting them to schedule a service appointment. So now, Carfax Service Network members can encourage their customers at the time of delivery to enroll at mycarfax.com or download the free MyCarfax app and get preferred shop status. This reinforces the relationship between the customer and the dealer and turns your car buyers into service customers. Free listings on the Carfax Service Network locator and on the Carfax Vehicle History Report drive new customers to your dealership. In addition, Carfax sends open recall alerts to owners to help your dealership reach new customers. And just like everything we do at Carfax, free point-of-sale materials are available to participating Carfax Service Network members to help them promote service loyalty in their shops and engage consumers to keep their well-maintained status. In summary, promoting the MyCarfax app to your customers will address their concerns during the ownership cycle of their vehicle, and by joining the Carfax Service Network, your dealership will ultimately boost customer loyalty and drive sales and service revenues. The addition of these new services are available to participating dealers adds a tremendous amount of value at no cost, and we look forward to helping you during the integral part of the ownership phase. Back to you, Bill.
Jay, thank you very much. A couple of the questions that have popped up as you went through your presentation there did surround some of the costs involved with some of these things, and I think you had just addressed that. But let's go back and talk about the service loyalty program and what it would take to enroll a dealership and how much it would cost. And then there's an additional just follow-up to that saying that the app is free for the customer, but is there any cost for the dealership? If you could go back and refresh us on that, that would be helpful.
There's no cost, no additional cost to any of our Carfax subscribers. Even if you're not a Carfax subscriber, you can participate in this program. There's no cost to the consumer. There's no cost to the dealer to enroll in this program. And enrollment is very simple. If you have a Carfax online account, all the dealer needs to do is go to their online account, select dealer services, select the service loyalty program, and enroll. Or they can dial that 800 number I had on my last screen. And hopefully that answers the question with regards to the enrollment process and the cost associated, which there is none. It's a free service to both dealers and consumers.
Okay, great, thank you. And then this another dealer has a question with regard to getting the customers that are coming through his service department to actually sign up for MyCarfax. Is in support of the dealerships within the service department? Any promotional material? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Bill, is it possible to flip the screen back real quick? Because I do have a couple hidden screens that I normally use with other presentations I'd like to display, if at all possible.
We're going to hand it back to you, and you can go where you need to with regard to the screenshots.
Excellent. So, as I mentioned, just like everything we do at Carfax, we offer our subscribing dealers, free point-of-sale materials. And this is just an example of a sticker that you can hang on the, attached to the door in your service department, promoting that free MyCarfax app so that the consumer can track their service history. This is a banner where they can add to their service drive-through. This is actually a trifold that you can put at the service advisor's desk, where when the customer is being checked in, they visually see this and will maybe prompt to download the application. And we've made it very simple also for the consumer to download that app. This is actually a stand-up here on the left, and also we've come out with these little stickers that allow the service advisor to stick them onto the RO or the invoice when the customer comes to pick up their vehicle. So now all the consumer needs to do is, instead of going to the Apple Store or to Google Play Marketplace, all they need to do is text the word service to 87767, and it'll automatically send them the link where to download that app. Also, we have hang tags that can be put in the vehicle, so when the customer picks up their vehicle, they can easily promote the My Carfax application. So as I mentioned, like everything we do at Carfax, we provide those point-of-sale materials to the dealer so they can promote those services to their consumers.
Jay, thank you very much. Very interesting information, and congratulations on the next step with regard to what you're doing in the service department and encouraging that information and interaction with the consumers and the dealers. So congratulations to you and to Carfax on that. His name's Jay Luna. Jay's the Industry Relations Manager for Carfax, and we appreciate, Jay, your time this afternoon. And we want to thank all of our presenters. We think they've done a great job as we close out the Auto Remarketing Training Series for 2013. We're looking forward to our 2014 schedule, and we'll have that out for you very early in January, so keep an eye open for that. I'd like to share some information with you before we leave you this afternoon on the next conference that's part of the Auto Remarketing Series, and that's going to be in Toronto. If you are in the Toronto or based in Canada, or maybe you have business interests in the used car industry in Canada, we're going to invite you to come and join us at the Weston Harbor Castle in Toronto. We're going to be there mid-March of 2014, and you can stay tuned to Auto Remarketing for more information there with regard to Auto Remarketing Canada 2014. We'll look forward to seeing you in Toronto. Lastly, if you're not already a subscriber to Auto Remarketing's publications digitally or even in print, I'd like to invite you to visit autoremarketing.com, our website, to sign up for your free subscription today. Our free e-newsletters will keep you up to date on all the industry news that you need. Thank you again for your participation this afternoon. On behalf of our Auto Remarketing Training Series webinar team featuring Krista Lupin and Nick Zulovich, my name's Bill Zadites. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you right back here next time on the Auto Remarketing Training Series.